everyone, I'm Brent Skarkey from the State Chamber of Oklahoma. It's an election year and we're excited to kick off a new interview series on okdecides.com. The site, the best way to stay up to date with the latest candidate developments in our state. The State Chamber's Chad Warmington going one-on-one with statewide office candidates to give the business community and Oklahomans a great look at what the men and women who are running for office are all about. The interview does not constitute an endorsement from the State Chamber. It's just a place where they can be heard and voters can learn more.
Thrilled to have Senator Adam Pugh with us. Senator Pugh, I'm going to introduce you, give you a little bit of the bio, and then we'll get into a discussion. And I was going to say we won't talk about fantasy football, but we may work that in.
We should. I'm very proud.
You should.
I shouldn't be from this past year, but I'm very proud of previous year's accomplishments.
We may work that in. So Senator Pugh served in the United States Air Force. He was elected to the Senate, Oklahoma Senate in 2016, and he serves as chairman of the Senate Education Committee. His legislative work is focused on teacher workforce issues, student academic outcomes, education policy, and he holds an MBA from the University of Oklahoma. Hey, thanks for coming in and talking to us.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm excited to talk about things I think the majority of Oklahomans care about.
Oh, very much so. So I'm going to start you off big picture. You're running for State School Superintendent, but give us your overall big picture vision. What's your vision for Oklahoma?
I really do think that, gosh, you look at where money's moving around the country, it's moving to the middle of the country. I mean, it just is, right? People are looking for places to live that reflect their values, where they feel it's a great place to raise a family. They want to be able to start or grow businesses, safe neighborhoods. And it's really the middle of the country that offers all of those opportunities for Americans who are looking to really get away from the coast and high cost of living places. I think for us, Chad, I really do believe that when folks are looking where to go, they are looking at the kitchen table issues that families think about. I've got 3 little kids. And I've got a lot of friends that were in the military who were stationed at Tinker, and the first thing those families did is they looked at schools. And I think that's true whether you're a business owner, whether you're a brand new engineer from out of state who's looking to relocate somewhere for military folks, not just when they get here, but I want them to stay after they get out of the military. And I just think that education is the key to unlock our economic potential, not internally just, but also it's the signal to the rest of the country that Oklahoma is a wonderful place to bring your talents and bless us and serve each other.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's a perfect, actually, segue into us talking about a little bit about our Oklahoma Competes plan, and you're familiar with it. For us, it's really just a new way to look at the state's competitiveness regionally, economic competitiveness regionally, nationally. And we identified economic, climate, workforce, infrastructure, innovation as those core pillars. From the perspective of this office that you're running for, which one of those do you think you can really lean into and would get the most attention from your office? And then, what specific actions you think that you could take that would help us improve in that economic competitiveness?
Yeah, I'm a business owner as well, and a parent and the chair of education. So it's hard for me to ever just see things from one perspective. But when I think about that in totality, you have to have a school system that gives every kid an opportunity to be everything God's called them to be. Where I think we have to be careful is if we just try to solve that at the state level, we treat every single school district the same. And when we do that, we don't allow for communities to figure out, well, what are we good at? And what are the things that matter to us? And what do we need out of our school system? What do we want out of our citizens when they graduate high school? And I think that's really important. As a business owner, I do think in terms of when a child leaves the K-12 system, when they step foot on higher ed, or when they graduate or go to career tech, are they ready to enter a challenging economic environment? Are they ready to enter a high-tech world that's changing more rapidly than you or I could have ever imagined when we were in school? And so those skill sets have to be adaptable. They have to be able to use logic and reason and critical thinking skills, because you may gain a skill today that 5 or 10 years from now, if you haven't advanced, whether it be going back and continuing education or grown in your career professionally, you're going to have a skill that, kind of becomes a relic of an economy past. And so it's really important that when we think about education, we also think about it in a comprehensive sense of what do we want an education system produce. We want it to produce an engaged citizen. We want it to produce someone who has talents but can grow and can be flexible to a modern economy. For a business owner, we want specific tangible skills. We want people to be on time. We want them to be able to shake someone's hand and do an interview process well. I employ engineers. I want good engineers. That means they got to have calculus skills and have a numeracy foundation that's really important. And again, I'm thinking about that from all three facets. And I think for the most part, I'm just a regular Oklahoma family that wants these basic things.
Yeah, you're a data guy too. Yeah. So my next question would be, so building on that.
Yes.
So what are the specific metrics that you're going to say, my first year, we're going to look at these specific metrics. What did those look like for you to judge success from year to year? And I know, to be clear, education policy takes time to work its way through and you see those results. But for you, year one, what are the metrics you're going to be looking at?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple.
Great.
Because I do like data, I think it's really important that we see things through that lens. Growth. Kids learn at different trajectories. They're individual and they're unique. And again, just prescribing a one-size-fits-all approach. So what we should expect to see, though, is growth. Is what we're doing working, and it would be reflected in a year-over-year growth. There'll be different benchmarks depending on what is a kid interested in. A kid may want to enter engineering in a STEM field. Another kid may want to enter fine arts. Another child may want to start a business and be more entrepreneurial when they leave high school. And so I think the ability to see growth year over year is really important. We are talking a lot at the state capitol right now about numeracy and literacy, and there are some very specific things. And we can argue about, is this test the right test or is that metric the right metric? But what we know for sure is when we measure ourselves to our peer states who are all using the same thing, we are behind. And that should scare us, and it should scare us into action. And finally, I call it the 3 E's. Because if you want to boil it down to when a child leaves your high school doors with a diploma, and hopefully more importantly, a skill set to go do something, they got to be ready to either enlist in the United States military, very, very near and dear to my heart, obviously. They have to be ready for employment because there are plenty of children who may say, you know what, I'm not interested in pursuing additional education, or I may do it later when my career allows. Or they have to be ready to enroll in some sort of higher education, another career tech program, because they may identify, I need an additional something to get into this career field. And it might be a PhD at some point. It might be, a bachelor's, or it may even be a certificate in cybersecurity from Rose State College, where that individual can then walk right across I-40 to Tinker and make $90,000 a year as a 19 or 20-year-old. That's amazing. Yeah. And so those are 3 very measurable things for high schools, and we can do it year over year and say, yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
We're putting our kids into one of those 3 E's, and I think that would be a very easy way for us to rally around some simple measurements.
Yeah. Do you think, and I love the 3 E's, and those are all measurables that we as business leaders, policymakers, those are the things we should be rewarding schools if they're delivering on those things. So how do we get to that point where that is what's rewarded? And sometimes it's, to your point, we get caught up in scores and whether they're A, B, C, or D schools and all those things. But at the end of the day, where the rubber hits the road, if one of the 3 E's happens, that's success, right? How do we reward and incent that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So over the past few years, we've done a lot of work in rewriting the A through F report card. And something we've tried to highlight and reward just through that A through F is schools who are growing. We are also rewarding schools who are sending kids into whatever the next step is for them. But now comes the discussion about financial incentives, as I think more specifically what you're alluding to. And I've actually had a number of schools who've come to me and said, hey, we've been an A school for 10 years. And I think sometimes those schools just feel like they get a pat on the back and thanks for being an A school. And we got to be careful because there are times when schools that are lower performing, we do have to divert more resources there to elevate them. But we've got to figure out a financial structure that does reward schools that are very high performing, and that, if nothing else, we give them additional money to add programming or financial incentives for their teachers, who are a major part of, lifting those academic successes. And at the same time, it doesn't have to look the same for every school. So we can provide flexibility. Here's some discretionary money. Because you're performing so well in these areas, here's some additional dollars that you can continue, to grow these programs that seem to have been successful. And then frankly, I want other schools to steal those ideas and replicate those successes.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, and that's what you can do in your current role and in this potential future role too. You can be a part of shaping policy that rewards that behavior, right? And I think that's kind of what you've been about, which kind of leads me into a little bit a broader question. But we ask every candidate a policy question as it relates to free enterprise. So give me, from your perspective for this office, and I know it's going to be hard, you got to shift gears from state senator, where I know that's a big part of what you do, but with this office as well, give me your perspective on how this office can really help build on the values of free enterprise, and then how can you be impactful in helping economic competitiveness and free enterprise through this office?
I have shared my personal story, I think, several times, but I'll do it again. I don't think I'd be in the seat, Chad, if it wasn't for my own educational opportunities. I was the first one in my family to go to college. And my mom was strict. She was strict about my sister's grades and my grades because she wanted us to change the trajectory of our family tree. And we did that. We did that because of the educational opportunities that we were afforded. And part of that we were afforded because other people in our lives blessed us. Someone in my mom's Bible study actually gave my mom an $8,000 check my senior year in high school and said, "This is to send your son to college." What an amazing way to pour into somebody's life. And I, years later, actually got to write that check back. I didn't give her interest. I hope she feels like she got a good deal on that investment. But because of that, I believe in the American dream. I mean, I do. Yeah. Nobody told me I was a victim. I should have been a statistic, raised by a single, mom, raised in poverty. But instead, because of our system that said, look, if you go gain a skill set, if you go take advantage now of this blessing and this opportunity that someone has given you to go to college. And I raised my right hand when I was in college and did Air Force ROTC and then got commissioned as a second lieutenant and served my country. And that afforded me additional opportunities. That's the concept for me of the freedom and the idea of economic opportunity and free enterprise. That's what our system offers. But it only works if you take advantage of it. And that's what I did. And I believe that education's the tide that lifts all boats. It doesn't have to look the same for everybody. Not every kid has to raise their right hand and serve in the military. Not every kid has to go to college. But every kid should take advantage of the opportunities. And so it's really important for me when I go around the state and I talk to school leaders, I tell them, I don't want every school district to be the same, but I want every kid to have the same opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, makes total sense. And that was a great way to tie free enterprise and the power of your office to be a part of that is together. Last two questions. I know we're kind of running out of time. Wanted to get your take on, there's considerable interest this year to appoint various statewide offices. Those are going to be working their way through the Senate. And then this position is particularly is one of them. What's your take on the ability for the governor to appoint this position, or I'll even nuance it a little bit and not make it so binary, to not have it elected? Give us your thoughts on that.
And that's a tough question for a guy who's running for office.
I know.
We've talked about this a lot. It's probably unfair, and just to be fully transparent, it's probably unfair if that bill makes it before the state Senate for me to take a position because I'm already biased. Yeah. I do think there is merit in the discussion of aligning. We have a clunky structure of government. There is no doubt. Yeah. What is the right way to go about that? I think there's a number of options. One such option that other states done, because I've had to research this myself so I could be intelligent when I talk about it, is if the state superintendent is appointed, the state school board members are elected in other states. Because I do think people like electoral choices, and they like some sort of balance of power and separations of power. Right now, we have a system where there is zero incentive to be aligned. with what the executive branch is trying to do or the legislative branch is trying to accomplish through law. And that's, I think, will be my focus when I get to that office. Is I know the hallways of the Capitol where I can align the State Department of Education, because those are the folks in the legislature who make laws and who fund the priorities of the legislature, and it's the executive branch job to implement them. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And I think that's the perspective I will have, no matter what the outcome of that particular state question is. It'll be my job to work in that system and in that construct. And I hope that that experience and the relationships I've built while in the Capitol will serve me very well in my role as state superintendent.
Yeah, great answer, and I think you added a lot of perspective to what the issue is you're trying to solve there, and I think that's super helpful. All right, last question. You're a year and a half from now, you just finished your first year, state school superintendent. What's the one metric or what's the one thing that you would say that defines the success of my first year? What would you want voters to go, Adam said he was going to do this, he did it, that's success? What does that look like for you?
I think of two things immediately. I think, first off, it's an organization that is aligned to serve the customer. I think that organization has become very inward, and it's meant to be a customer-facing, customer-oriented organization. Now, who are the customers? It's parents, it's 500 plus school districts, 700,000 students. So just looking at the organizational structure of the State Department of Education, which is hard for the legislature to even understand. Who works there? What do they do? What are the functionalities? And who do they serve? And do they do so in a manner that's outward-facing? I think that's really important, because if you don't get that structure and that system right, we're going to spend a lot of money and not do it particularly efficiently or effectively. It'll go back to things that I've been working on as legislative priorities. Outside the family, which is really hard to legislate, having a great teacher in front of every single classroom is the most important thing that can happen. I say it all the time, Chad. There's nothing special about the bricks in Edmond Public Schools. We have great schools because we have great families, and then those great families demand great teachers in those schools every single day. So if we can get great teachers into every single classroom, we can change the trajectory of Oklahoma. And we can measure literacy rates and numeracy rates. But right now, we're spending a lot of time catching teachers up on how do you teach science of reading? What is the foundational principles that a kindergartner needs to learn in addition and subtraction? And we need to get a great teacher in the classroom, get them access to great professional development, and then we'll start to measure the effectiveness of a great teacher. Right now, sometimes we're comparing apples and oranges, and it's really challenging for the system. So you get the system structured right, get a great person in front of every single classroom, and then you come up collaboratively with what are the measurements that are going to show success for the state of Oklahoma.
Well, I don't think we could end better than that answer, and I want to sincerely thank you for stepping up and being willing to serve as state senator. But this is a sacrifice for your family too, to run for state school superintendent. I know you're passionate about it, but I sincerely want to thank you for being willing to serve and for the service you're doing now, and for your service.
I think you need to thank Sarah Pugh. That's really what you're saying.
Well, listen, we already know she's a saint, and she deserves all the credit. But thank you for putting the family in on this. Through this journey, and appreciate you spending some time with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Love being on. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.